I want to talk a little bit about the last video that we filmed with you. In that video, you shared some very graphic things, mostly pertaining to your charges. You've also talked about the proof. You know, you talk about your sister and how she has this paperwork. And I want to clarify, you know, will this be something that we're able to see? So, Joker, the first thing that I want to say is I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us again today, man.
No problem.
I know you said that you haven't got a chance to see the full video. We did two. We did the little introduction, giving a sneak peek, but you haven't seen the full video.
No.
I was apprehensive at first about what people were going to think. You know, we tried to approach your story from a very neutral standpoint because you share with us a very crazy story. A story that probably nobody could ever imagine. But the reality of the situation is people, there were a lot of people who were very supportive, you know, because you got locked up at such a young age. And people didn't cast judgment as much as, honestly, I thought that they would. With the fact that people weren't so quick to cast judgment or pass judgment, you know, it's got to be a good feeling to know that, you know, there are people who do want to see you do good out here.
Yeah, I guess.
Look, I want to talk a little bit about the time that you spent in prison. You spent a whole lot of time in prison. And you've been to some very crazy places, places where violence pretty much ran rampant at these places. You know, what was the worst place that you ever served time at?
Probably Red Onion.
And what made
Wall and Red Onion.
What made Red Onion so bad?
People just thrived on violence. Guards were scared all the time.
You said the guards were scared?
The guards were scared all the time. I mean, it's a prison where most of the prison is underground except for the administration building, and there's just people there just so violent, so unhuman-like. I mean, it's hard to explain.
Now, the only thing that I really know about Red Onion, and I don't know nothing, I've never been there. You know, this is a level 5. This is a super
Level
max.
6.
Level 6.
It used to be a level 6, and they changed it to a level S for maximum security. It's the highest prison, maximum security prison in the state of Virginia.
But isn't this place a mostly lockdown place?
Yes.
So when you talk about the violence that takes place there, how does that violence take place?
They do have population there.
Oh, they do?
They do have population. It didn't when it first opened up.
When you were there, how long would you end up serving there?
I served my last 9 years there.
And throughout that time, I can only imagine that had to be hell.
Yeah.
You know, would you be willing to talk about some of the crazy stuff that you saw during those 9 years that you were at that place?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Talk to me about any of the craziest situations that you saw. Like, I know it had to be nothing but violence.
Well, we had this one guy in a pod, in one of the lockdown pods. Came out, nurses came with medication, and what they do is they let one cell out at a time to get their medication. They come downstairs with shackles and handcuffs, and they get their medication. They go back up to the room, their cell, and they take shackles and handcuffs back off and put them back in the cell. Well, there was one dude, I really don't want to mention his name, came out of his cell to get his medication, and he came all the way downstairs to the bottom tier. And her name was Miss Jackie. She was a nurse, very, very sweet old lady. He came down to get his medication, and he started arguing with the nurse about him not getting his medication on time, or them not being consistent with his medication, and it started a big argument. And one of the guards told him to calm down and lower his voice and stop being all disrespectful. And where he got it from, I have no idea, but it was like a mesh wire looking like they have on the bottom of the bunks. And I guess somehow or another he got a piece off of it, and he had sharpened it. And he stuck this guard in the side of the neck for disrespecting him, and blood went everywhere, all over the old lady, the other guards, and I mean, it was like something out of a comic book. It was crazy. They literally beat this man to a. I'd say they should have probably beat him into a coma, because they beat him for at least a good 15, 20 minutes.
And violence at this place was probably something that just happened all the time.
All the time, just at the drop of a hat. You never know when it's going to pop off.
You've been through some pretty insane things, not only with your crimes, but also with the time. You've seen some horrible things, and
I've seen male guards get raped. I've seen inmates get raped, killed, people stabbed in the chow line, and people just step right over top of them like nothing ever happened.
I want to ask you this, and I hope I don't offend you by saying this, but you mentioned when you got locked up when you were younger, you had to fight to save your ass.
Literally.
How real was rape in prison back then?
Literally, I was, like I said, the very first time I was in there, I was approached by 4 gentlemen, and first thing out of their mouth was shit on a dick or blood on a blade. And I told the man, I said, if you're gonna corpse. And I showed you the scar last time where I had been stabbed because I wasn't gonna give up my ass. I wasn't gonna live like that.
But you probably saw stuff like that happening
All the time. Young guys come in there, I could be sitting here. Young kid come sit next to me. Another guy will come sit next to him. This man would hand me a cigarette, and then I would take the cigarette and hand it to this man. I'm not saying I did it. I'm saying this is how it went. Then I would take the cigarette and hand it to him. He just bought you from me, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Obviously, people would try to fight to protect themselves and not end up victims of that type of situation.
You'd be surprised, not many people did. Back then, people didn't fight to keep from being raped or molested or whatever. They didn't. They wanted to keep it on a hush hush. If it happened, it happened. They wouldn't say nothing about it, and it would continue to happen because people wouldn't fight to keep their ass.
So with all of the prisons that you would end up serving time at, you've talked about the Wall, you've talked about Red Onion. Everywhere that you've been has just been insanely violent, especially back in the time when you were in prison. I want to talk about the violence that you encountered. I know you saw quite a bit of violence, but let's talk about some violence that probably took place involving you. Again, when you went to prison, you were 16 years old. I can imagine for a young kid trying to grow up in the prison system, that had to be impossible.
I was 14 years old.
When you got to prison?
I walked in 500 Spring Street. I was 14 years old.
How old were you when you received your sentence?
I was 16.
And what was it like as a 16-year-old receiving 2 life sentences? Can you tell me anything that you remember from
At that time, it didn't hit me. It didn't. It was only, to me, it was only numbers. I didn't. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. Although they did put me in a suicide cell for almost 3 months. Once, because I guess they said it was routine, so to speak. But it didn't hit me, not till Not until I went to the wall.
For people who don't know, what is the wall?
Wall is 500 Spring Street in Richmond, or it used to be. It was one of the most notorious, most craziest place any convict would ever want to go to.
How old were you when you went to this prison?
I was 16.
I want to talk a little bit about the last video that we filmed with you. In that video, you shared some very graphic things, mostly pertaining to your charges. You've also talked about the proof. You know, you talk about your sister and how she has this paperwork. And I want to clarify, you know, will this be something that we're able to see?
Yes, it will. She's right now. When I called her yesterday and asked her about it, she said as soon as she can get to the bank, she'll go to the safe deposit box. You can have all the paperwork that we have.
And why? Can you explain to me a little bit about why it's kept in the safety deposit box in the bank? Because that's just, to me, I mean, I know that's a secure place to keep this, but, you know, is there any particular reason why she chose to put it there?
Besides from the fact that at the time she's had 4 kids running around the house and being in a relationship, she just wanted to keep it safe in case anything happened to me, I would have something to fall back on to prove my cases, to prove the things I've been through as far as courts is concerned, not as far as people in society, because I don't give a shit what people in society think.
Right. And I do, with you mentioning that, I do want to also mention this as well. You know, we put the video up yesterday, and again, like I said, there were so many people who were supportive of the situation. Here's a young kid who ends up getting these crazy charges, doing some horrific things, and ends up going to prison. 2 life sentences. But with that, there's also people who are skeptical. There's people who don't believe this. There's people who say that they've Googled this, searched for it, can't find anything relating to this story. And I want to say this as well. You know, I've done the same thing. I've Googled it and I've tried to find information and I can't find anything. Joker, what do you say in response to that?
I'm not here to prove anything to anybody.
What year was it when you first got arrested?
81.
In 1981 is when you would first begin this journey that would last so many years. And it would be in...
It was in August of 81.
And you came home in 2014 from all of this.
Right.
And then you would serve 2 years for a violation, and that's what brings us to where we are with you right now after being released for 2 years. So, you know, it's been 4 years separated since you getting released from these 2 life sentences with an additional 2 years that you served for a violation of your parole or a violation of the probation. And I'm just developing the timeline for anybody who might, you know, maybe they didn't see the last video we did, or just to keep everybody understanding that you served a ton of time.
I was in, like I said, I was in juvenile. When I first got arrested, I was in Norfolk Detention Home on Military Highway. It was in August of 81. I didn't go to an adult jail, which was Virginia Beach City Jail. I didn't go to Virginia Beach City Jail till about September 1982. That's when I was emancipated.
And then from there, everything would just snowball.
Right.
Trial, getting certified as an adult, and then receiving all the time that you did, and then you would end up getting released in 2014.
Correct.
I know that you've told us that, you know, the proof that you have rests with your sister. But is there anything that is there any way that we could validate on our end? Because I'm not saying we don't believe you. I want to do this for the naysayers, right? I want to showcase to the people who may say, you know what, I don't believe this until I see the proof. Is there anything that we can do or see that we could possibly get access to, or maybe you have access to it?
I don't have access to anything. My sister has everything because her being an attorney and her being more able to have all these forms and these newspaper clippings. My sister's 4 years older than me. She's a lot more mature than I am. As far as me laying my hands on something right this minute, no, everything rests with her.
And that's fine. You know, hopefully we will be able to cross that
I,
bridge.
I give you my convict word.
That's not
My
a good word to
convict
be giving
word.
me.
I will take, you will, as soon as I get, she will get the paperwork, and I will give you everything that she gives me, which will be my transcript, newspaper clippings, photos, and statements from witnesses, everything that's transpired from the time even my first update sheet where it says upon death. I'll give you everything. But like I said, I don't have to prove anything to anybody.
No, and I'm not. Yeah.
But I don't mind.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I gotta tell you my standpoint. Look, Joker, we met you, and you have a hell of a story to share. You've been through some hella shit. There's no denying that. But obviously, with what we do, we have to be able to validate. We have to be able to prove these things, and it's just a part of it. Everybody
Of
wants to
course.
hear. Everybody wants to hear a crazy story, but you know there has to be that proof behind it. And I did the digging myself. I really tried to do that. I couldn't find anything on it myself, and I know a lot of people have tried to do the digging too. You know, you would imagine with such a high-profile case, something would pop up about this, and I want to be able to prove it sooner than later is what I guess the best way that I'm trying to word it.
Right, and I understand.
Look, I want to ask you a question. This happened back in 2009. Did you ever know, what was this guy's name, man? Did you ever know a dude named Joe Kirky or something like that?
Joe Kirky. Not sure
I want to say that was his name, man. I gotta look.
because I'm not good with names. So I'm better off with faces.
There was a story that I did run across, and it was crazy. And this was a high-profile case. Now, back in 2008 is when this took place. I was sitting in the jail during this time. I was in Chesapeake City Jail. Joseph Kirkies, I think is his name. Anyways, the guy is him and another dude were running this. I don't know what it was. It was like some kind of a male escort service. Do you remember anything about this story?
No, we don't get local news up in the mountains.
Where were you at in 2009?
Red Onion.
Oh, you was in the Onion? That's crazy. I want to ask you a question, and I think this is how I'm going to try to wrap this up. So I want to go back to the Joseph Kirky thing, right? When we first met with you, Joker, your story is absolutely insane. It really is. And I feel so compelled by the way that, you know, we've been able to chronicle the story. I'm grateful for this. But obviously we do have to verify what we're talking about, you know, because
Yeah,
we're going to...
You made that point.
Yeah, we're going
several
to... Our
times.
credibility is on the line with this. I guess the reason I bring it up is because, look, there was a story that I ran across while searching for you, trying to see this from the past. And it's about this Joseph Kirky's dude. It's about whatever the heck that these guys were involved in. I guess what it is, they made a book and then they made a movie out of this story. But they mention a Joker in this story. And I just want to show this to you. Let me show this to you. Like what the? I don't know if you can read this, right?
I don't have my glasses on me, so
I don't want to. What this story talks about is that story right there. But this story takes place in 2007. I thought it was 2008, 2009. It was in 2007. But it mentions Virginia Beach Correctional Facility. Was there a time when you were transferred back to the jail during this time?
no.
Or is this probably just not you?
It's probably not me. I've never been back to Virginia Beach until I was released.
I mean, I think about the nickname Joker, right? And
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that has that name.
I just want to run that by you, see if that rings.
My sister calls me Joker, but people they call me Jekyll. Jekyll. That's what everybody out here calls me. My sister calls me Joker.
Right. I'm going to do something. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. And what I want to do is, look, like I told you, we uploaded the second video, which is really your story. And that's also the video where you talk about what you've been through, your story, your charges, your sentence. And I've told you how there's a lot of people who rock with you. There's a lot of people who support you. But obviously, you can imagine that regardless, people hear a story like that, they're going to look at you like the villain. They're going to look at you like you're a horrible person. We come at you from a neutral standpoint. We don't judge you. And though we don't want people to judge you, we know that they will. But not only do people judge you because of the past, they also judge you because of, they think that it's BS. They think the story is BS. And to those people right there, I'm going to ask that you speak, to the camera and directly to those people who think that this is just not what it is. What is your response to that?
Well, for all of y'all out there that thinks that it's bullshit, to each his own. I told these gentlemen they will get the proof that they need to validate everything I've said. That way you can eat your own words. Now I want you to understand, it's not that when I call her, I'm going to sit there and wait on her. No, I'm going to push the issue. If I have to go to her home or to her job and we both go to the bank, I'm going to make this a priority to get you what it is that you need. Because I want to see the feedback on that.
I want to see the update sheet that says upon death.